Hello, viewers. It's 100 Dalmathan here, and I hope all of you are having a good summer. This video is going over the 2026 midterm elections, since this is a midterm election year, and we're halfway through it. So, my video is going through the results of the primaries so far. One of the things I've really been trying to educate and inform the American people on is the problem of aging career politicians and the responsibility of the American voters to stop reelecting these people. The U.S. Congress is full of very old, frail career politicians. And I'll give you some of my own research. What I've been doing is, about 106 members of Congress, counting the Senate and the House of Representatives, 106 of them are in their 70s, and 25 of them are in their 80s. And already this year, 2026, 2 members of Congress died in office this year. One of them was 66 years old, Doug LaMalfa from California, and the other was 80-year-old Congressman David Scott from Georgia, who had been in office since 2003 and died at 80 years old. And as I'm making this video, there's a strong possibility that Senator Mitch McConnell might be dying this year. We don't even know what his real condition is right now as I'm making this video. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing my research I've been doing on the primary results so far, focusing on career politicians who've been in office 20 years or longer, who are running for re-election this year. And I'll be going through alphabetical order on it. So I'm going to be starting off this list with the career politicians who've been in office for 20 years or longer, who were able to get primaried by new challengers. So starting off in Colorado, Congresswoman Diana DeJette, a Democrat congresswoman who is 68 years old, and she's been in office since 1997. She got primaried. And from Texas, Senator John Cornyn, who is 74 years old and has been the senator of Texas since 2003, he got primaried by the Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton. And then 78-year-old Congressman Al Green, who's been in office since 2005, he got primaried this year. Okay, now I go through the rest of my alphabetical list by state of these primaries results. So in Alabama, 2 of their career congressmen were able to survive the primaries. Congressman Robert Aderholt, who is 60 years old and has been in Congress since 1997, was not able to be primaried. He won the primaries. And 67-year-old Congressman Mike Rogers, who's been in office since 2003, also survived the primaries. Now I go to the state of California, and a large handful of career politicians who've been in office since the 1990s all ran for re-election this year, including Maxine Waters, who is the 3rd oldest person right now in Congress. She was born in 1938. She's 88 years old, and she's been in Congress since 1991. She was able to win her primary, and 72-year-old Congressman Ken Calvert, who's been in office since 1993. He won his primary, and 71-year-old Congressman Brad Sherman, who's been in office since 1997. And 78-year-old Zoe Lofgren, who's been in office since 1995. 75-year-old Mike Thompson, who's been in office since 1999. 73-year-old Jim Costa, who's been in office since 2005. And 81-year-old Doris Matsu, who's been in office since 2005. All won their primaries, and also 57-year-old Linda Sanchez, who's been in office since 2003. All these people who've been in office for a very long time did not get primaried. Continuing the list, in Georgia, 79-year-old Congressman Sanford Bishop, who's been in office since 1993, faced no primary challenger at all. In Idaho, 75-year-old Congressman Mike Simpson, who's been in office since 1999, won the primaries. In the state of Kentucky, 88-year-old Congressman Hal Rogers, who is the second oldest man right now in Congress, and he's been in office since 1981, was able to win the primary election, winning over 77% of the vote. In Maryland, Congressman, I'm going to mispronounce his name, Kwesi Mafum, who's 77 years old, and was in office from 1987 to 1996, and then came back to office in 2021, won his primary. And in Mississippi, Congressman Benny Thompson, who's 78 years old and has been in office since 1993, won his primary. In Missouri, 81-year-old Congressman Emanuel Cleaver, who's been in office since 2005, won his primary. In New Jersey, 73-year-old Congressman Chris Smith, who's been in office since 1981, faced no primary challenger. Other longtime Congressman from New Jersey, Frank Pallone, who's 74 years old and has been in office since 1988, won his primary. In New York, Congressman Gregory Meeks, who is 72 years old and has been in Congress since 1998, won his primary. In North Carolina, 82-year-old Congresswoman Virginia Foxx, who's been in office since 2005, won her primary. Continuing the list, 80-year-old Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur, who's been in Congress since 1983, faced no primary challenger. 66-year-old Congressman Mike Turner, who's been in office since 2003, faced no primary challenger. In Oklahoma, Congressman Frank Lucas, who's 66 years old and has been in Congress since 1994, won his primary. 76-year-old Tom Cole, who's been in office since 2003, won his primary. In South Carolina, Senator Lindsey Graham, who is 70 years old and has been in Congress since 1995, won his primary. In Joe Wilson, who is 78 years old and has been in Congress since 2001, won his primary. And 86-year-old Jim Clyburn, who's been in office since 1993, won his primary. In Texas, 71-year-old Pete Sessions, who's been in office since 1997, faced no primary challenger. 84-year-old Congressman John Carter, who's been in office since 2003, won his primary. 70-year-old Henry Cuellar, who's been in office since 2005, won his primary. And lastly, West Virginia, Senator Shelley Moore Capito, who is 73 years old, and she has been in office in Congress since 2001, 25 years in office, won her primary. The other states that I have not mentioned, they have not held their primaries yet. They are still yet to come. We're only halfway through the year. So the takeaway that I've seen so far in a lot of the primary results is very disappointing because way too many of these career politicians survived the primaries. There were younger, newer people trying to replace a lot of these old career politicians, and voters throughout this country chose to stick with their career incumbent politicians. So I don't get it. The American people will complain. They want term limits for Congress, that are tired of career politicians, but then they keep re-electing the same career politicians. And in some cases, some of these career politicians I named didn't even have a primary challenger. No one even chose to try to even run against them, which just shows how rigged politics is. The United States is not headed in a good direction when the political leadership of the country are a bunch of very old, frail people, like what has happened with Senator Dianne Feinstein, or when the people of West Virginia kept voting for Robert Byrd till he died in office at 92 years old, or South Carolina, they kept voting for 100-year-old Strom Thurmond, or what happened with Mississippi with Senator Thad Cochran, or Arizona, they kept voting for John McCain for over 30 years until he died of brain cancer. And now we're seeing also what's happening with Senator Mitch McConnell. So, if, the American Congress ends up looking like what Russia looked like in the 1980s with a bunch of old, dying politicians, how can anyone expect anything to get better? In the United States, no, this is a very bad direction.